Welcome back to the Nourished and Thriving Mama podcast. I am so excited for today's episode. This is something that is revolutionizing. It is game changing, and you're going to be wondering, where has this been my whole life? I'm beyond excited to talk about today's topic because I know that this is one of the biggest struggles, not only in just life in general, but along your weight loss journey. Thinking about what to eat. What are we going to make for dinner? What are we going to have for this? What are we going to do for that? And I know that meal planning can be not only time consuming, but it can also be mentally consuming. It can zap a lot of that mental energy in the decision making and decision fatigue. And then just opting for the easiest option often leads moms to falling off track with their weight loss goals. And then they kind of flounder from there and then try to regain their footing. And they're like, okay, next week I'll plan better. And it's always this like goal line that's getting pushed back further and further. Like next week, next Monday, I'll start then, I'll do this, I'll plan better, I'll do this, So this topic is going to be really exciting if you find yourself falling a little bit into that trap where maybe you'll be doing really good for a few weeks and then things will come up and you'll realize like, ooh, I wasn't really prepared for this. Okay, well, I just need to grab this. Or, oh, this is going to be a shorter week this week. I don't really need to plan as much. Like there are obstacles that come up in our lives that can throw us a little bit for a loop. And with this amazing tool that I've created for my clients, oh my gosh. Like I said, you're going to be wondering where this has been your whole life. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, let's go ahead and dive into this episode. All right, so let's rewind to when I was 70 pounds heavier right after my pregnancy. And I was determined to be this best version of myself after having my daughter. Those first weeks of adjusting to motherhood and finding a routine, but I wasn't working yet, that seemed not that difficult because I wasn't on someone else's schedule. But I remember the feeling of going back to work and realizing the very minimum amount of time that I still had left in the day was really hard to accomplish everything that I wanted to do. I really had to look for these little windows of opportunity where I could stick in things that were going to help me work towards my goals. That was where I had to find, how am I going to be able to incorporate exercise into my day? Where can I put that in? Because I'd be waking up, I'd be driving my daughter, I'd be commuting at least, depending on the traffic, I spent over an hour in the mornings commuting, and then I'd spend over an hour in the evenings commuting. So, and then that you have the whole work day and you sandwich that on, and it's like, where is the time for me as a brand new mom who's pumping too and having to deal with all of this stuff going on? Our time is limited. Our time needs to be utilized in more efficient ways. And we have to find these little hacks and ways to get things done. And so I found ways during this time frame to incorporate into my schedule. I looked at my calendar, I analyzed it. I said, okay, where in my schedule can I fit this? How can I do this? Where can I put this? And I got into a really good momentum of like, okay, Saturdays, I will plan meals. I will figure out what I'm going to eat for the next week. I did a lot of repetition of meals because it was just easy and I didn't have to think that much. A lot of my lunch preps because of work, I needed to prep lunch. A lot of those were like the same exact thing because it was just easier. And honestly, my own preferences, breakfast and lunch don't really need to be that different. I really just care about changing up dinners. So I was like trying to figure out what works really well for me and how to make sure I set myself up for success every single week. Because the exercise in itself is not going to be enough to lose the weight. You have to have your meals working for you so that you can work towards your goals. And I remember feeling so in control on the weeks that I had my meals planned out really well. and actually excited. And I was like, man, I'm really killing this mom thing. Like, look at me planning dinners and look at me like not even having to stress about anything because I was doing that work on Saturday and getting the groceries and then setting myself up to do meal preps on Sundays for the week coming up. Now, my schedule was unique because I get Wednesdays off. So I could prep some things to get through the first couple of days, and then I could prep some more things Wednesday to get through the next few days. So it was like I figured out a strategy that worked really well for me. But I still needed to figure out where to squeeze in that time for the meal planning. And sometimes my brain was just like, I have no idea. I'm scrolling through Pinterest, I'm like Googling recipes that would be higher protein, what's going to be good. I'm looking through cookbooks. I'm like doing all this, like, it's like a job. I'm literally researching things and I'm like trying to save these recipes. So I have like go-to ones that I can kind of filter around and use. And so I'm like working really hard to make this work for me because I know how well it sets me up for the next days, for the next week when I do that planning piece. And I figured that out and I just kept going with it. And then I started realizing that this is a crucial piece in a mom's journey with their weight loss. And I hear from clients time and time again, I'm just not sure what I should eat. I'm getting bored with what I'm eating. I don't know what to do. What should I make? Like, what should I do? I don't know what to get at the store. Like, people are always having the struggle with the meals. And if your meals are not right, even when you're doing all the right things otherwise, you're not going to see the loss that you're looking for. And if you can't get a good system in place to make sure these meals are on track, even if you get a good system in place for just losing the weight, you need a long-term system to help you maintain the weight afterwards. And it was within these last few, I guess, years, maybe not even that long, that I really started diving into the world of AI because I've always been such a nerd for technology. Like, I always wanted the newest things. Like, when the Kindles first came out, I was like, this is so freaking cool. And then I got the first Kindle that was ever made. And I was like, yes, look at me reading. Like, that got me into reading. Me and technology are like good friends. But I started realizing, okay, I am utilizing technology in a way that is helping to simplify my life. How can I do this to simplify other moms' lives? And that's when I started working on creating my macrame meal planning bot and tailoring it so that it's setting your meals up to make sure you're prioritizing protein, you're getting in your veggies, you're working towards using your macro blend so that you have a good balance in your meals. And then I was like, okay, well, the moms, like, yeah, they are cooking for themselves, but what about the rest of their family? You know, one of the other things I hear a lot of times from clients is that, well, I can make this for myself, but my husband's not going to eat this. I need to make this for him. Or, oh, there's no way my kids are going to eat this. So I have to make like 3 different meals for myself. Like, dinner ends up being a whole nother chore because you're making all these different meals for everybody. And then when it comes to you, you're like, ugh, well, this is annoying. I'm just going to have this because I'm tired. I already did all this, you know, or I don't know what to make for everybody. So let's just order so that everybody gets what they want. But then the order and choices aren't always the greatest. And so then you fall into that trap again of, okay, I'll set myself up better for next week. You hear what I'm saying here? It's always these things that pop up that, yeah, our lives are busy. They're tiring. How can we make it easier? And that is where my little bot macrame comes into play. She is amazing. You can literally ask her exactly what you want. Do you want her to help you plan out dinner meals? Do you want her to make sure that you have enough food for snacks and lunches and breakfast? Do you want her tailored to what you actually like, what your kids like, what you normally cook, what ways you cook? Do you love using your air fryer? Do you hate using your oven? Do you want to have high protein, but you hate shrimp or hate pork or whatever? You know, it's really cool. It's not this cookie cutter approach that you often get from like going to a dietitian where they're like, okay, well, here's an example menu. So lame and so boring of, 1,200 calories, follow this, or 1,400 calories, follow this. Like, those are so boring. Or you go the other end and you're like, well, this influencer has like meal plans, but then you like get them and you're like, oh my gosh, these are overwhelming. I don't have time to make all these things. I don't have the grocery budget to make all of these things. Like, I'm not a stay-at-home mom who can cook all day long. Now, granted, I have a chef background, so I can prep food very fast. So I'm not that worried about it, but there's still this like little barrier of having to exert your energy into the process. It's easier when you get going, but some of the recipes out there that they are saying, here's your meal plan. It's like, okay, well, I can't do that one. I don't have the time to be able to prep all the stuff that needs to go into it. Or I can't afford to get all these little things that are in this recipe. This is why my macrame bot is so freaking amazing, because I have you fill out this sheet that you feed to her and let her know all your preferences, what your schedule is like. And then she's tailoring everything to you. And then you give her feedback and you're like, okay, well, this meal worked really well. Or my kids absolutely loved this one. For my little bot, which is really cool, my daughter will eat a ton of vegetables, but it can't be cooked. She likes them raw, and she loves pasta, but I typically don't eat pasta. But, pasta is really easy to cook, especially because she wants it plain. So I'm feeding this information to macrame, and she is keeping it, in the back of her mind to utilize in my planning for what I need, which is really freaking cool. Because then when she spit out my last week's menu, she even had little notes of like, this is what you're planning on having, and here is little modifications within that meal that will make it work for Tatiana's preferences. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Now, luckily for Douglas, he'll eat whatever I give him as long as it tastes good. So I don't really have to tailor too much to him, but because of his Hispanic background, he tends to like more of that type of food and not really, there's certain cuisines he will not eat. So guess what? I told Macrame he hates the smell of curry. So let's not plan any meals, even though I love that taste. Let's not plan any meals for days that I know that he's going to be eating dinner with us, and not out and about. If I know he's going to be out and about, that could be a day I could make something like that because he won't be around to smell it. But it's these little tiny nuances that you can feed to macrame and she can tailor your week to it. And she learns along the way. I geek out on this stuff. It is so freaking cool. And that is a missing puzzle piece for so many moms, is this meal planning tailored to your actual freaking life. Not a cookie cutter meal plan, not a stay at home, kids are taken care of by a nanny, where you have all the time in the world. I'm trying to think of something that gives you all the time in the world. This tailors to your life. Okay. And honestly, I'm trying to make it as best as possible to make sure that you feed it all the information. So you could say during a certain season of your life when you're meal planning, Tuesdays and Thursdays are soccer practice nights. Can you make sure I have either a crock pot meal that night or something, or plan to eat out that night? And what's a good option? Maybe I'm going to stop at a sandwich shop. Which sandwich should I get? It's so cool. Now, because I'm so early on in my bot and offering this to people, I literally just launched it and I'm beyond excited about it. I'm planning on doing workshops to help you better utilize it, because there's so much you can do with it. So much. And it is saving me so much mental energy. I'm not having all this decision fatigue. I am staying on track. I'm eating foods that I like. I am fueling myself in the ways that I want to with food that makes me feel good. And the sense of control you have when you have your meal planned out for the week, That is such a freeing feeling, especially when you know that what you're making are things the whole family is going to eat. You have that all taken care of. And then the coolest part is, like, if you don't like the ideas that she gave you, you can be like, I don't like that. Can we change this? Like, she had spit out something like have breakfast for dinner on one of the nights, like Sunday night. And I was like, no, that doesn't sound good to me. Let's change that. I'd rather do this. Or, you know, because I work on Saturdays right now, I want a really easy dinner Saturday nights. I don't want to have to like make a really cool dinner. So what, you feed this information and she adjusts for you. And then the coolest part is starting to save like a bank of your go-to meals that the family loves, that can be on repeat. And then things just get so much easier. It's actually so amazing. But I wanted to solve the problems that so many moms are facing where they get home 6 o'clock, they're standing in front of the refrigerator, kids are hungry saying, I'm hungry, I want to eat, I want to have something right now. And you're just like, well, what am I going to make? And oh my gosh, I can't give them chicken nuggets again because we already had it twice this week. And you can actually feel like a better mom because you're like, okay, well, I'm not just feeding them trash, giving them things that I know they're going to like, and everyone's happy and everyone's eating better and everyone has elements of healthy meals happening. And then your meals are planned in seconds and your grocery lists are made in a split second. Because after you have the meals that you want, tell her to make you a grocery list. It'll be organized in sections and you'll know exactly what you need. Is such a game changer. Simplifying your life, tailored to your life. Because realistically, when we're working on weight loss, we want sustainability and maintainability. So if you're following these cookie cutter diet plans and you hate it and you start getting closer to being finished with your weight loss and you're like, I can't wait to be done with this, but then you have no idea how to eat to maintain your weight, this is a trap that people fall into where they lose the weight and then they just end up regaining because how they were set up during weight loss never carried over into their maintenance because they didn't set themselves up great from the start. So utilizing this AI bot for meal planning is one of the greatest hacks that you can do for your life to simplify things and tailor it to you so that what you're doing is maintainable, sustainable, fits into your life long term, and takes away some of the energy suck that you get from life of being a mom. So we can put our energy into other places, so we can have more time to do other things. And do you know how much time I save between using macrame to plan my meals for the week, immediately going into the grocery shopping app and having those meals delivered to my door? Because I can't be out and people too much. I don't like driving and I don't like parking lots and I don't like crowded grocery stores. And do you know how much time it's saving me? It's incredible. Time, energy, more time with my daughter, more time doing things I love, feeling more in control, and maintaining the 70 pounds that I lost from being pregnant. Like, this is a game-changing hack. And you know what? Right now, I have it listed for only $22 to get access to macrame. Macrame is going to change your freaking life. I have a little meal planning bundle, and right now it's $22. You get access to macrame for life. And I also have some other little tools and stuff inside. And I'm planning on doing some workshops in the future for people who have access to macrame. It's going to be really freaking cool. I'm going to help you utilize her as best as possible because moms need hacks. We need shortcuts. If we want to lose the weight and keep it off for life, we need to find these kind of things that can fit into our life. The only way you can sustain your weight loss is by finding things that can actually fit into your life and being able to be adaptable. And what is very cool is that because you can just tell it whatever you need to tell it, you can feed it like what your schedule looks like. You can feed it like this time of the year. We have, maybe soccer games or soccer practices Tuesday, Thursday. We got games on Saturdays. Like whatever your schedule looks like, you can tailor it so that you're never feeling off track. And one last little tip before I kind of wrap this up. I just had somebody asking about well, how do I make sure I still eat healthy and on track with my goals when I'm going out to eat? Guess what? Chain restaurants have all of their nutrition mostly listed online. So you can literally go in, if you have the app on your phone, ask Macrame, okay, I'm going out to eat at Chipotle. What is the best option for me to stay on track with my goals? And then she'll feed you the answer. And if you don't like it, say you have any other ideas. Or, maybe you're getting breakfast at Starbucks. What would be the best option out of what they have? It's so cool. You just have to talk to it and tell it what you need, and it will feed that info to you. And you're like, oh my gosh, this required no thinking. The only thing it required thinking is for me to ask the question. And sometimes I'm so lazy that I will literally just pull up the app on my phone, and instead of typing, I will just speak it into it. So I literally feel like I have my own little assistant who's helping me make sure I stay on track with everything. Game changer. Hey guys, $22. That is a freaking steal to change your life. And if you need more support than just the meal planning, I now put Macrame within all of my programs because it's such a game-changing tool. Because every mom who's on a weight loss journey or trying to maintain it afterwards, or even just wants better meal planning, needs to be using Macrame. I have tailored her to make sure that she's giving you recipes and meals that will fit your goals in your life, in your circumstances, in your preferences. So freaking cool. $22, guys. You can DM me on Instagram, the robot emoji, and I will send you the link. Or you can check out in the show notes, I'll drop website. You can go check it out too. But let's wrap up today. This is such a game-changing tool. You got to use it. Life will never be the same. You're going to save so much time, so much energy, and feel so much more in control. If you enjoyed this episode, please share this with another mom who needs to hear this. Subscribe, leave me a rating. But yeah, $22. It can change your freaking life. Go grab Macrame and get started. Make your next week be freaking planned to a T. Anyways, until next time, stay nourished and keep on thriving.